Court. And give me a hand, since many of you don't. I think the state of Oklahoma, like many states in the Midwest region, have not come fully out of the recent recession. Certainly Wisconsin hasn't come fully out of the recent recession. But I think that's another place where a strong university can really assist the state in helping to attract and retain businesses in the state.
Police officials say it was an old model 12-gauge shotgun that Kutej held on his hostage yesterday morning. A ballistic examination shows one of the two barrels didn't work. But that apparently did not matter, because when Kutej stormed out of the 7-Eleven at 9 o'clock yesterday morning, his gun was empty.
We found no shells for that weapon, and it was unloaded upon our inspecting it after the shooting. So our indication is right now that it had been unloaded during the entire ordeal.
Police did not know that at the time of the shooting, but they say it helps explain why Kutej had demanded to exchange his shotgun for two pistols. What it doesn't explain is why the gunman charged heavily armed police, knowing his own gun was unloaded. And police are looking into the possibility that Kutej wanted to be shot.
That is an indication that one might assume from his actions based on what we know now, yes.
The 24-year-old Kutej has been transferred to St. Anthony's Hospital, where he remains in critical condition after being shot 3 times. Police records show Kutej had 3 previous arrests. In 1983 for alleged auto burglary and assault on a police officer, and twice in the past 9 months for driving under the influence. He had not been convicted on any of the charges. Meanwhile, Kutej's hostage, 39-year-old John Pine Zottleby, has left town, according to his family, wanting to spend some time resting before returning to work. He is reportedly doing well following his ordeal. Jeff Fowler, News 4.
Basically, we look for any kind of change from the background levels or the levels that constituents in the water that existed before the landfill went into operation. Any change would indicate to us the possibility of pollution from the landfill.
Community leaders say shopping center parking lots near the intersection of Northeast 36 and Kelly have become a nighttime haven for drugs, sex, and property damage. For the past month, teenagers have been using the parking lots as a hangout, sometimes more than 1,000 kids at a time, camping out here until dawn. Already some businesses have been defaced, and leaders say they are shocked by what's been going on.
I saw young ladies taking needles, injecting the needle into their arm where they were injecting narcotics into their arms. I saw open sex. I saw the use of the shopping center as a place to deposit whatever relief that they need. It was horrible.
State Senator E. Melvin Porter and Clara Luper say they want the kids out of the parking lots. They say it's bad for the neighborhood and bad for the young people spending the night there.
I belong to the school of thought that believe that children belong to all of us. We have that responsibility. And whatever happens in Oklahoma City, whether it happens on the east or west side, it will affect all of us. We've got to save our children.
A community meeting has been called for Thursday night to discuss the situation, and Senator Porter says he's willing to go as far as getting a court injunction to keep the young people out of these parking lots, and he says to keep them from hurting the image of this area. Jeff Fowler, News 4, Northeast Oklahoma City.
We'll have a meeting on the Sunday at 10 a.m. and they will tell us then what has been reached.
Now, at that time, would you vote on a tentative pact?
We don't even know that at this time. It'll just be explained according to the notice that we do have here.
A broken sewer line, just one of the problems symptomatic of a deteriorating infrastructure. This line broke because it was old and overloaded. The infrastructure of Oklahoma City is falling apart. The city's sewer, water lines, and roads make up the infrastructure, and city crews can barely keep them up. At times, this broken sewer line carried enough sewage for 2 lines. And city officials say if they don't get the money to keep things up, the situation will only get worse.
We've got conditions like that with roads and bridges where they're old, and they're also overloaded because they can't meet the new capacities. And this sewer line is a classic example of and indicative of our infrastructure problems in Oklahoma City.
City crews work constantly to keep up with the problem, but city officials say what they really need is money. It's been 9 years since the city passed a bond issue or a tax increase to keep up the roads, water, and sewer lines. The city is looking for alternative funding. Last year, City Council started charging people to hook up to the sewers, but it will be several years before that money will help these crews fight the battle. Kent Boyd, News 4.
This police demonstration vividly shows what happens to someone who gets stung by a stun gun. Demonstrations like this one helped convince half a dozen Comanche County Sheriff's deputies to spend $80 to buy their own stun guns.
Wait here, Highway 36 and I-44.
Deputy Ernie Hughes serves 24 summonses and other legal papers every day. His is one of the most dangerous jobs in law enforcement. A decade ago, another Comanche County deputy was shotgunned while serving warrants. Hughes packs a standard issue police pistol. He also holsters a 50,000-volt stun gun.
A lot of times it can be used just by demonstrating it to someone and explaining it to them. It can be used as a deterrent to either calm them down, just by talking to them in a level tone, and if they want it, then you'll give it to them. but most of the time you want to try to avoid using it unless you absolutely have to.
Deputy Hughes has only had to use his stun gun twice. Hughes says that both times the person stunned cooperated after their brief jolt. The deputy claims he can usually talk his way out of trouble. However, Hughes says he's glad he's got a stun gun as a second to last resort in case force is needed. Like any good peace officer, Ernie Hughes doesn't want to have to use his last resort weapon, his pistol. Scott Wallace, News 4 in Lawton.
These might be the fattest, happiest, most overfed ducks in Oklahoma, and they're glad to be home. Home is the duck pond on the University of Oklahoma campus. The ducks found themselves relocated last year as the pond was drained, cleaned up, and refilled. The duck pond is again a place to meet, a place to explore an unfamiliar world. But before the cleanup, it was a place of neglect. Built during the Depression, the pond became a focal point of campus life. But during the past few years, it was a murky, trashy, and overgrown place.
A volunteer effort unparalleled in the history of the University of Oklahoma.
Today, these people rededicated the duck pond. They're a group of volunteers who decided the duck pond needed cleaning up. It took a lot of work, and they hope the cleanup will make the pond the popular place it used to be.
It went along with just any and everybody using it because no charge, and it had trees that were getting bigger and bigger. And there'd be a lot of people who have a picnic of 50 or 30 or more people, or reunions of their families.
Mrs. Morris's husband helped design the original pond. That was in 1935. The 1985 version isn't exactly the same. There's an addition. Kent Boyd, News 4.
This is the first direct service between the two cities in 30 years. We feel like there's a great deal of common interest between citizens of Oklahoma City and citizens of Fort Worth. We'd like to see more cooperation in marketing and tourism between the two cities.
Down there, and I'd like to have you two guys in the front here at the foot of the ladder. We're going to be wrapped in orange or something.
It was amazing to find, how many of them were, seeing them past the sentencing date because of the probation officers might be open.
Okay.
Child pornography is a very significant problem. There's a large number of people that are a whole subculture of people that are involved in this. It is a problem in promoting the molestation of children, and it causes a profit to be made from the exploitation of children. And it is a large group of people, or at least a significant group of people, that are involved in this kind of activity, and we anticipate this being just one of the first prosecutions.
Would you mind just reaching and picking it up?
Oh, sure can.
And none of them are on suspension or under any cloud at all?
No, I sure didn't expect to find that many. I wouldn't have been surprised to find one or two devices, but I was totally surprised by the number that we found.
After a long and sometimes disappointing wait, the telephone call came. It was early April. A liver became available in Dallas, and within hours, 15-year-old Kim Denton was on her way to Children's Medical Center there. Kim's new liver came from a 26-year-old Irving, Texas woman. The surgery was successful, but Kim was not out of the woods yet. In fact, the real battle was just beginning.
A lot of things have to happen starting now. Now's when things come about. Possible rejection, possible bleeding, possible infection. So we've been cruising until now. Now things are going to get serious.
The coming months did bring some rejection. As Kim puts it, some ups and downs. But medications were adjusted. Additional surgery for the removal of her spleen was performed. And then there was progress. Kim felt better, and tests showed she was improving. Tonight, her progress was obvious. After 4 months in Dallas, Kim was well enough to come home to family and friends.
Well, right now I don't have to worry about getting another transplant. It just feels really nice to be able to sit back and relax and not worry about Pittsburgh or Dallas calling. And don't have to worry about it anymore.
And Kim had some words of hope tonight for others awaiting a transplant.
Just hang in there.
Dan Slocum, News 4.
That's good. That's good advice. When you were down there, talk a little bit about the people who cared for you and the people who
It's been 3 weeks since Chakotah residents awoke to the sound of exploding bombs. A collision between a bomb-laden truck and a car had just rocked the eastern Oklahoma community. The explosions blew a 27-foot deep crater in the middle of Interstate 40 and damaged property a mile away. One of those casualties was the Chakotah Middle School. The bomb blast shattered nearly every school window and broke several roof joists. Inspectors said the building was structurally safe, However, school officials wanted to repair the damage before putting kids back in the classroom.
We think there's enough ceiling joist damage that we ought to have a very fair, accurate assessment of the damage and get it repaired properly.
Mr. Cannon's 7th grade math class spent the first day of school in a converted gym. It's not the most ideal classroom, but the gym will just have to do until the Shakota Middle School is repaired.
Now we have to have school in a little building, and it's hard hearing the teacher, and it's not as good as it was in the regular building, but it does the trick.
Ironically, the bomb blast may turn out to be a blessing. Last year, Shakota voters turned down a proposal to build a new school here, and local officials are hoping that the crowded conditions this year will help convince patrons that now's the time to build some new classrooms. Scott Wallace, News 4 in Shakota.
It's just people standing in here.
It's primarily going to be a function, of course, of the district attorney's office. But I think it is important for a public body like the city council to take stands on these issues, and I think this resolution gives the public and the people in the community the feeling that the council feels strongly about it, and hopefully it will have a good effect in perhaps lessening the problem that we think exists.
Overcrowding is definitely a problem here. September the 1st, we will upgrade our system, our population, and we will be double selling more so at some of our facilities that we've been double selling at already. For instance, John Lilly, we will be adding on some new beds, and so that will increase our capacity.
On most days, Harry Dupree can be found here at Allied Bank in Oklahoma City. He plays with the computer, but actually Harry runs the bank. His title is president. The job, he says, is a challenge, but there are other challenges in Harry Dupree's life. This race in the Rocky Mountains holds a special dare, 100 miles of grueling trails near Hope Pass. This is the third year for Harry's run in a race known as the Leadville 100. It's a non-stop run through some pretty rough terrain.
You go out feeling very strong, and you have all these goals that you're going to hit this particular checkpoint at this time and the next one at this time, and the further you go into them, the harder you find it is to maintain that schedule.
But Harry did maintain his schedule and finished 16th in the race. His time, just over 28 hours.
I had a very strong finish in this particular race, and my first question of myself was, I wonder how far I could have gone this day.
That's a question he'll probably ask over and over again in the future. It typifies the winning attitude Harry's developed with races like these. 100 miles in one day for Oklahoma City's long-distance bank president. Dan Slocum, News 4.
Fighting fires is never an easy job, but today it was miserable. The temperature at noontime was 97 degrees. Add to that a fire where the searing heat could be felt more than a block away. And fire officials estimate that the two combined made the temperature 300 to 400 degrees where some firemen were trying to fight the blaze. That kind of heat took its toll. A number of firemen, especially those who tried to make their way inside the building, required some treatment for heat-related problems. At such high temperatures, it is difficult to breathe, making oxygen very much in demand. And in some cases, it was more serious. One fire captain had to be taken to St. Anthony Hospital after suffering from heat exhaustion.
It'd be like if the normal average citizen would put on a winter sweater and then put on a winter coat and parka, pile about 70 pounds of equipment on them and try to work at full strength in the heat.
For the firefighters who have to get closest to the flames, heat is only part of the problem. Dehydration can be just as serious.
You get dehydrated when you face temperatures in there, well up in the 100 degrees, and then you're wearing your bunker coats to protect you from the heat, but it also keeps the heat in. You sweat a lot, dehydrate, and then you're active. You're going 100% while you're inside the building and working a fire.
Anytime there is a fire, but especially in temperatures like those today, there is almost as much need for water to keep firefighters going as there is to put the fire out. Fire officials say they feel lucky more of their men were not seriously affected by the heat. But as one fireman said, heat is just one of the things we know we have to deal with. Jeff Fowler, News 4, downtown Oklahoma City.
We found out some very exciting things on a new drug treatment that we're using, a TRH therapy, and that is a thyroid-releasing hormone that is injected into the skin. It's solely on MDA research that we've been able to develop this, and we're really, really excited. It shows a great deal of promise. It is still experimental, but we have applied now to the FDA for it to be an approved drug.
They're making money off of this. They have bamboozled many of the elderly, the state agencies, and other older organizations, and made it hard on businessmen to resist their hard sales.
Past idea was for everybody to have a telephone, seemed to be the goal of this nation. And now, with under the auspices of the government, it seems like perhaps we're moving towards phone service for the wealthy only.
These Oklahoma residents appearing before the Corporation Commission today are protesting Southwestern Bell's $121.4 million rate hike request. If Ma Bell is granted its wish, your phone bill will increase 18 cents per day, $5.47 a month, figuring out to nearly $66 more a year. Southwestern Bell officials say they need the increased revenue to continue giving its customers good service. Southwestern Bell officials contend you would still be getting your money's worth.
Cost of telephone service has increased roughly 1/3 as much as almost every other item in the CPI, Consumer Price Index. Telephone services is still a bargain compared to most things today.
Rate increase hearings may continue through next Tuesday. Then it'll be up to the Corporation Commission to decide if your phone bills will go up once again. Ann Nyberg, News 4.